Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to Wealth Edit Wednesday. We are here with Mary Drennan, founder of Nourish Foods and several other Nourish Markets. And there's one more that I'm missing.
It's fine. I'll clarify. Eat Well.
Eat Well Kitchen. So anyway, we're so glad to have you here with us today. Mary has been a longtime friend of the Wealth Edit. Before we knew how to podcast at all, a funny story is that Mary came into our old office to podcast and I didn't know how to turn on the recorder, and so we lost the whole thing. So I'm glad we're back.
Yeah.
Her.
I had actually forgotten that.
It wasn't great.
I remember that day.
Yeah, it was just not a great day. But now we're learning so much and doing better. So anyway,
I applaud you.
Just start out and tell us your story. Tell us what about you, all about you.
Yeah. So I know, like most of the people on the call I can see with the videos, but some of you I don't. So I am Mary, and I am the co-founder of Nourish Foods, which is a weekly meal delivery subscription service that we have operated for 8 years, and in December it'll be 8 years. And then I'm also the co-founder of two new brands that are kind of spin-off brands during COVID called Nourish Foods Market, which is basically a marketplace for other Southern food brands. And then also the Eat Well Kitchen, which is a low-cost frozen product that we produce specifically for United Way, but then we launched a website so that we could offer it to the general population. So that's me. Personally, I've been a friend of Lauren and Emily for a long time and a client at Somerset. And then I have 3 kids of my own and 3 stepkids. I am 40 years old recently, actually in COVID, so I didn't really get to celebrate. And so, yeah, that's me, business owner and mother. Those are like my 2 biggest jobs that feel like they never end.
We understand that. Tell us how Nourish came about. Have you always had this idea, or did you?
No, not really. I mean, I'm not like a textbook entrepreneur. I have a English background or an English degree from Washington and Lee, and I really started out there as a math major, and I quickly switched to English because it felt like the easiest place where I could do the least amount of work. And so I kind of went that track. I didn't necessarily like love reading or writing. I was more like geared towards how can I get through this without having to really do anything study-wise. And so that was like provided the least friction for my skill set. And then I have a culinary degree from French Culinary Institute in New York that's now called something else. And I actually had no ambitions of ever doing business. I think I took the one business course that WNL requires you to take, which is Econ 101. So all of my business acumen and prowess at this point is just like on the ground learning as I go. And it feels kind of crazy. But then one of the things that I've realized in that is with entrepreneurship, a lot of the stuff that I've learned doing any of these businesses is just stuff that's like trial and error and really self-taught. And I don't think that there's necessarily a skill set with entrepreneurship that you can teach, right? You either like have that grit and that ability to just like take risk and fail many, many times and still get up, or you don't.
Yeah.
You know, it's just
that's one thing that I just have loved watching you do is like you're just not afraid to take a risk, because I think you tend to, from what I observe as an outsider looking in, like put risk in its appropriate place. Like I think sometimes as women, like we overemphasize what could go wrong or like how great a risk is. We're like, really there's not much that you lose if you do in fact fail, which you haven't, but you know what I mean?
Well, no, yeah, I mean, there's been definite years that like we have experienced not complete failure, but like we have failed to, I mean, I can give you so many different versions of what we see as failure, which didn't cause us to like have to shut the doors forever.
Right.
But appropriate failure that like really got us to either focus or ask the right questions. I mean, I can give you like really, really specific,
Give an example.
hard examples of things that like we just didn't know, or we took too much risk, and on the back end of that we were like, wow, that was pretty poor decision making. And the benefit of that, and my business partner is sitting across from me, is that we have worked together for so long that we know each of our own strengths pretty well and give the other leeway to make those tough calls and have some failure in there. And then we have grace on the other side, because there's been, I mean, I can actually put the ones that I've directly like made poor choices on, and she's just kind of like, all right, let's buckle down and do this. So in, what year was that? 2014, Tiffany was still at Cooking Light Magazine. That's where we met. And she was still there as their test kitchen director. And I've been asking her like probably for about 6 or 8 months, like, hey, can you leave Cooking Light? This is a lot to handle for one person. I think that this business can support 2 of our salaries, you know, whatever, you know, I'll pull her to the dark side. And finally she was like, yeah, okay, I'll come do that. And then within like 6 months, we had a very short-lived contract employee file a EEOC charge against us. You guys can internet.
The internet's a little bit choppy.
Hi.
Yeah, okay.
Much better.
Oh, Tiffany took herself off the internet. We've had internet problems this week. So if it zooms out again, I may just shut off my video too.
Oh, okay, no problem. Hey, well, tell us, you were saying within 6 months you had an employee and that's when you froze.
Okay, so we had a contract employee that had filed an EEOC claim against us, which was really me because Tiffany wasn't in the business at the time, saying that I had another employee was harassing her, and I was not pro-female. And what other was, I mean, it was just like really like this crazy, it was a crazy amount of, from an employee standpoint, it was just this overwhelming, like, I can't believe that somebody would think I would turn my head and let somebody else harass them, and that I was not pro-female because like there was only one male on our team, right? So it just didn't make sense. And this woman was an immigrant, which is very, very common in food business. And what we knew her to be in name was not really who she was. So she had filed it under her true name. Anyway, so I'm actually out of town, and Tiffany gets the letter and she's like, what is this about? And I was like, I have no idea. Mm-hmm. Well, we got some good legal advice, and about a year later, like, we worked through having to settle this claim with this woman that had worked for us for maybe like 15 hours, y'all.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
And the lesson for us was we didn't realize that we were at risk of that kind of stuff. So we didn't have proper insurance. We were so new. We had like 5 employees. And so we didn't realize that we need to have like a very buttoned up like employee handbook, and, you know, just all the things that you don't think about as like a in the trenches entrepreneur until it affects you. Mm-hmm. And luckily we were able to like borrow the money to pay this woman, and it wasn't nearly what she had asked. But at the end of the day, our lawyer was like, look, you can keep fighting this, or you can just settle it.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, we have been very, very cautious about who we employ, what the nature of their employee agreement is with us, because things are going on under our noses without us knowing. But people can make claims about all sorts of things that you don't even, that really don't matter if they're true or not. It just is kind of the nature of business, right? And so that was one of the like really tough lessons that we had to learn out of the gate as at Nourish. You know, other examples, we've made some poor financial decisions as far as technology and trusting people to build custom things for us that really didn't have the skill set that they were selling us on. And, you know, those are just tough lessons to learn. And ultimately we've found great people to help us. But we've had to learn a lot of that on our own. And we've had to spend a ton of money for stuff that didn't work properly, that wasn't like an improvement to the customer experience. It was actually a deterrent. So basically it's us just over the last 8 years, making choices that in hindsight weren't great choices. And I think if you're in business, that can happen if you're the owner or you're the employee. I think it just feels more strongly on our end when it's something that impacts, you know, our true personal bottom line. And we've had to just learn.
Yeah. I told Lauren yesterday on the drive home, I said, you know, starting the wealth edit, you know, I'm an attorney, so Mary, like I always think about the legal side of things, which really slows things down. If you really think about it, I'm always like,
It really
oh
does.
my gosh. But you're right. There's just like, if you kind of know like the expanse of all the different things that could happen, you know, it kind of like, sometimes it like makes you freeze. But I said to Lauren on the drive home yesterday, I said, you know, building our own business and the wealth edit, I was like, I think I'm just going to be so much more compassionate towards other business owners, because you realize like how much of it is trial and error. Like you really are trying your hardest, but you know, there's certain things you just don't know until you get in there and try it. And then you realize, okay, that probably wasn't the best decision. And it just takes, you have to give yourself a lot of grace.
Yeah.
You're really
You know what, that reminds me of one other that was like probably one of the pivotal moments for our business. Also in 2014, we had moved into our second location. And so we had a new, who was just texting? We had a, sorry, my phone also connects to my computer. We had a new health inspector. So we're so excited. You know, these people have just built out this brand new facility for us. It's like going to open us up to so much other business. And we get in there, and within the first 3 weeks, our new inspector shows up, and she's awful. Now I think she's not even in the health department anymore, but she was awful. And she walks in and she's like, oh, well, let me look at your labels. And we're like, oh, okay, sure, whatever. Like the last person hadn't cared at all, didn't even care what we were really doing. And at that point, we were doing a big business for Iron Tribe Fitness, and we were doing kind of like a wholesale to retail model. Like their people that at the gym would order the meals through them, and they'd send us like a list, like, hey, we need 100 chickens delivered to the Homewood gym. And so we would drop it off at the gym at a wholesale cost, and then they would sell it to the client. So we never actually were like the end transaction. And so the girl takes our labels and she's like, well, I'm just going to take this back to my desk. I need to run something by my boss. And we're like, okay, we don't see that as like really a red flag at all. And y'all, within 24 hours, they had come and shut us down. They'd gone into Iron Tribes across the country, pulled all of the food out of the refrigerators, shut that down. it was like the Wild Wild West. And we were committing this like egregious crime that we actually had no idea we were doing wrong. So to be able to operate in the model that we would have had to have a USDA certification at our facility, which we didn't. We were just under health department. And so we had to like completely, within 3 weeks, change the business model so that we didn't have to get USDA certification. And so what that actually did, it was the catalyst for us to start an e-com website where we were taking the transaction ourselves. We could still drop at Iron Tribe, but we had to be the recipient of the funds, and they couldn't act as the one that was taking the transaction. It was purely transactional. It had nothing to do with the food or anything else. But it was like the most eye-opening experience for Tiffany and I. And at the time, it was super stressful. I had left actually that day to go on my honeymoon. And so for the first week of this, she had to handle this herself, like trying to like figure it out and talking them off the ledge and like figuring out what to do with the food before it went bad, and like trying to rebuild these relationships with people at the gym level who had seen the people come in and shut them down. I mean, it was just this like nightmare of a situation. But in hindsight, it was really the most pivotal moment because it forced us to go into a place that we wouldn't have probably gone quickly on our own, which was onto an e-com platform, taking the customer data, having their email, having, what are their buying patterns? Like it created a true business for us so that on the heels of that, we really could easily launch our own brand and the next series of brands because we knew what the regulations were. Does that make sense? And like, I think if it hadn't gone down like that, we probably would have continued to be, just like a vendor for them for as long as they would have let us.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that is such a good word because I think that, you do as a business owner have to make these like sort of last minute calls that are not the direction that you thought we were going. I mean, it's kind of the same with the Wild Edit. Like we launched on March 8th. We all went into quarantine March 12th, like that kind of forced us into online in a way that we were not expecting to be, but it's been good. And, but I think it's that thinking on your feet, having to be flexible, having to look through a different lens, sometimes by force, that really, it's interesting. And I think it's neat too, because everybody sees you and Nourish and like this, and Tiffany and this beautiful brand that you all have worked so hard to create. And a lot of times you don't see how much, as a consumer, you don't see that there are a lot of things going on underneath the surface that maybe aren't as beautiful, aren't as pretty. It's just like roll up your sleeves and get it done.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I mean, if y'all could see what I look like underneath this shirt, you would see what my next steps are going to be today. So, yeah, there's just a lot of hard work. So I am kind of like you, Emily. I kind of like always try to see, especially female small business owners, for the truth, which is there's a lot under the surface that you can't necessarily always see. And like, they're always wearing like a bazillion hats. And so there's probably a lot of place for grace for that woman,
Well, tell us about, this is switching gears a little bit, but about building a team, and a team of workers where they may not always be with you, because F&B, it's like you expect workers not to be with you for a season rather than a lifetime,
Yeah, this is a challenging one for us because in different times of our business, we have had strong team players and key people in different departments, if that makes sense, because our business has so many different facets. So there's like the production team, which is basically they're receiving all of the raw product. and making it into a meal or making it into whatever. They're adding the value to it. And that's a very specific skill set. And that's kind of like the food and beverage people. And then there's the fulfillment process, which is taking that good and making it beautiful and putting the sleeve on it and making it specific to that unique person's order and making sure that whether it's FedEx or UPS or our own courier team, it's getting to that person in the best shape that it possibly can. And so there's the fulfillment and logistics piece of it, which is tremendously complicated because within that is there's a lot of customer service involved and there's a lot of customer retention involved. And I would say that like our retention piece happens 99% of the time in the last mile. And, you know, 50% of our clients, that last mile does not belong to us. So we're entrusting that to an outside source, FedEx or UPS, to make sure that that's on time. Shipping perishable goods is very, very complicated, and it has taken us a long time to really understand that. And that's why one thing that I feel is has been really unique for us in COVID, but also just somebody's always like, oh, well, somebody else could come in and just like start doing this job. And I'm like, oh no, they can't. They could maybe do the front end of this, but the piece that's taken us 10 years to figure out is like, no one wants to go through that fire. And so the fulfillment team for us is very hard to staff because, and I could walk you through, but they're all working right now. A large majority of that is very physical labor. You know, the boxes are heavy, the gel packs are heavy. You're standing in essentially like a refrigerator for 8 hours a day. And then times that you're not standing in the refrigerator, you're in a warehouse that's hot, you know? So it's like it's not all like creative and, not everybody would want to do that if I can be honest. So that part of it, we have had a very hard time building the team. There have been times that we have just thrown people into the fire and see if they sink or swim or burn up, whatever. There have been times that we've had tremendous innovation on that team. And one of my biggest regrets is that we couldn't figure out how to hold on to those key people that were innovating and that were really, really good at their job. So there's all sorts of facets here. And there's been times that we have had really great leadership and great people in the production and really great people in leadership and fulfillment. And those things don't seem to go together.
Yes.
At the same time. I was listening to that podcast that I showed you guys on the stories yesterday called Entree Leadership. And I don't know if y'all like listen to the Dave Ramsey family of podcasts, but that one I think is particularly interesting. And this guy that wrote the book, Dan Heath, was talking about to truly like build a team that doesn't, that kind of shifts the culture of your organization. You have to look for people that are upstream problem solvers. And especially in our business, I see this all the time, and we've done this for 8 years. We reward people and we give a lot of value to people that can step in the chaos and the hair on fire moments and like be the hero. Yes. And what he's saying is, Dan's like, you've got to shift your thinking to say, who are the heroes that really provide upstream problem solving so that you never get to the chaos? You know, and like, let's start rewarding them and like start valuing them, because often they're like unsung heroes and they're never really rewarded in a way that the chaos heroes are. And so that kind of gave me a little light into how to hire properly. Anyway, so I don't think that we've been great at building a team, if I can be honest.
Yeah, it's the hardest thing. I mean,
yeah, for sure.
And I would say, time will tell with the Wealth Edit. We've had some amazing young interns, which is fun, but that's for a season.
Yeah.
Certainly building Somerset has been no walk in the park as far as building people that are going to be part of the team. And in our business, it takes so much consistency, and like you're intimately dealing with people's private wealth. They expect a lot of consistency.
Yeah.
And it is tough because, at the end of the day, no one loves it like you do. You know what I mean? That's just the truth. It's just,
Yeah.
So.
And that's one like saving grace of our business, is that there's two people here that care about it equally the same. And so if I have to be out of the building, like I know 100%, like it's going to get done with excellence because Tiffany's there, and vice versa. Whereas I think I think of the days when she was still at Cooking Light, there would be times that I would have to go do something and I didn't know what was happening. Is it happening properly? Is it, and that's probably a process problem and a people problem.
Yeah.
So.
Well, this has been really helpful. I think it's just good to hear the real behind entrepreneurship, and like some of the things you run into as you're growing and building. And so like before we open it up for questions, what do you think is next for Nourish?
Well, okay, so we've launched 2 brands that are kind of COVID specific. Not specific. COVID really opened our eyes to like a wealth of opportunities that we didn't see as opportunities before. So we were just kind of chugging along like, oh, our meal subscription business is great. Like, we love it. We've been doing this so long. It feels like we've really kind of got this thing down pat. And then COVID happened and we started looking at other opportunities within the framework of what we do really well, which is high volume production and fulfillment. And like anything that fit in there, we were open to looking at least. And some of those have been really great partnerships. We're doing, like I mentioned before, we're doing a Meals on Wheels program for United Way. And basically we're serving all of the people that are on the wait list in the Birmingham metro. And they get very specific products that are frozen, that are heart healthy, low sodium, which we wouldn't have touched before because we thought it was gross. But it's a lower price point product that we're doing such a high volume in for them that we figured out that we should put this online for anybody to buy. And it's done really well. It's not like going to knock Nourish Meals off the top contender spot from a revenue standpoint, but it reaches a customer base that we wouldn't have gotten normally. And it's an easier product to sell because the price point is between $4.99 and $7.99. And that feels more approachable to people. Even if it's a lower quality product, that feels more approachable to people, especially on e-commerce. It's just an easier sell. And then, so we're going to continue to do that. We're actually talking to UAB, and starting next week, we will deliver meals to their hospitals. One of the problems with COVID is that their kitchen staff all quit. So they have 65 open positions in their commercial kitchen, and they cannot get meals to the patients in less than 2.5 hours. So we're going to put Nourish Meals on each of the nursing units, and there will be a handful of those that they can lean on in a pinch, or if somebody checks in and they've already missed that window of mealtime, they'll have something at the ready, which we think could be not just great for us, but a really great expansion opportunity for potentially other hospitals to be able to say, hey, we're doing this for the UAB system. Do you need this too? Because I think that that's a problem that we can quickly address that not a whole lot of people around here can.
Yeah, that's a good word.
So that we're working on that. And I think that those projects are tremendously impactful to the team as a whole, from the standpoint of the mission of Nourish being able to reach people that we wouldn't have been able to reach in our regular, Nourish Meals platform. And it still falls into what we already do really well. So I have 2 drivers out right now that are delivering the seniors, and they love delivering them because, they'll see these people and it may be the only people that they see all week. Yeah. And I mean, just to hear the stories that they tell from the field is like really tremendous. And so I think that that'll be something that we continue to put a lot of energy and effort into. Strangely enough, even though it's a lower price product, we have a better margin on the frozen goods than we do even on our regular meals. Because they're less customized, they're more simplified. We can do bulk production and keep them in frozen inventory. It's just a much easier process and product. So we'll continue to kind of see how that shapes up over the next couple months and where we feel like we should put our energy as far as that's concerned.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mary, it's so inspiring to hear all the different ways that you've just taken your situations as they come and been willing to pivot and change and grow. It's encouraging to hear because
and say yes,
and just say, I hear that, and I think that's what's so special about getting to hear so many women business owners share their story is like you hear it and you're like, okay, she did it. It's okay. Like whatever we're facing today, it seems like a little overwhelming, but at the same time, you're like, this is how we grow. And to see where you are now from where you started, it's really encouraging. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions? There's a lot of shocking moments on the chat about the 65 vacant positions. Okay, Kitty, what are you saying?
Hey,
Hi.
I'm stopped at a stop sign. Everybody stop panicking. Mary, I just wanted to say that I am so impressed with how you still deal with the details, even though you're running such a huge operation. When you have people like me who reach out because their ice packs are weird, I just want to make sure you know, and you handle that so graciously. I think it's just amazing how you can, oh yeah, I did, Lauren, don't act surprised. I just wanted her to know that it was, in case it was a thing, I wanted her to know. But anyway, so I'm so impressed with how you can deal with sort of the mega and also with the micro. And I think that's a really good talent to have. And I think it's awesome. You're welcome. I have no questions, just a props. How's that?
Thank you. I always, we get a lot of like client feedback, and I always appreciate knowing if something's wrong. I think one of the challenging parts of our business, because we are only e-commerce, is we don't see that client face to face to say, how was your meal? So if somebody abruptly cancels or, and then we just never hear from them, we have no idea. We ask like a little exit interview, like, why are you canceling? But, if they had gotten mad because their ice packs were busted and never told me, I'm making some assumptions about why they didn't order again without having like a face-to-face. So we do rely on a lot of customer feedback, not just for, product development, but for like, how are we doing? Why do you buy from us? There's a lot of options out there. Like, what can we do better as an organization to keep that person? I also focus a lot on customer acquisition, and customer acquisition cost for us is tremendously high compared to other industries. And it's because there's a lot of competition and there's a lot of noise. So when we acquire a customer, it's not just costly for us, but we want to make sure that they stay with us. The average lifetime value that we're assuming that they will. And so we can realize some profit from that acquisition cost. And so having people like Kitty say, hey, the ice packs were weird this week is like really helpful, because then I can go look at the logistics team and see like what process do they have in place for refreezing these ice packs, or if it's new ice packs, are they coming in busted already? So there's just like a lot of improvement that we can make when we do hear from clients. So I appreciate that always.
Yeah.
Mary, we have one question from Sarah that's, what is your packaging made of? Is it compostable?
Yeah.
And or microwavable?
Okay, all of our packaging can go in the microwave or the oven. Compostable, I'm looking at Tiffany because she does it. It is. I'm sorry. Recyclable. Sorry. Not compostable. Sorry. It is what's called a dual ovenable microwavable tray. So literally, you just pull the film back, and you can put it in. There's like no cleanup. You don't have to transfer it to another tray or whatever. It's a recyclable number 2. Tiffany obviously knows the fact.
Tiffany.
But yeah, Sarah, still in town, or did you?
Oh, sorry. Hey, yes, I'm still in town. We have not sold our house. We're just being patient, and it's kind of easy to be patient when we're both working from home and the kids are in school. So I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah.
This is great. So, anyways, I really appreciated your talk, and I don't know, it's kind of cool. We have such different fields, but you hear a lot of parallels in me and my own small business. And then I was also in food service for 14 years. So I just really appreciated you talking today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Mary, so many comments about like, you really are, Nourish is feeding our community, and that is so special. And we are so grateful for that, because that is a big problem during pandemic times. So we really appreciate that. It may be just us now because I think her internet went out again. So thank y'all so much. And we'll be back next week.
Yep.
All right.
See y'all then. Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.